10 push-ups, 3 sets, 10 squats, 3 sets. And, very similar to something like that, pull-ups at the bar or under the table, and some dips and calf raises. And I literally put on 3 kilos just doing a body weight program, because I had just never been exposed to any form of strength training. And I think that was the biggest thing for me. The strength and conditioning program helped me build so much muscle, and I ended up playing around 65 kilos. So I put on over 10 kilos in my career. That was obviously helped me be more powerful, more explosive, and be able to create a lot more force in my movements and in my running capacity as well.
G'day, Alicia. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Thanks for joining me today. And you got your little one there as well, so it's good to have both of you on the podcast today.
Yes, got little Daisy in here having a little snooze, so hopefully she behaves, or if not, she'll be happy to show face on the podcast.
Oh, that's good. So how's life going at the moment post rugby, and what have you been up to?
Well, life's been a little bit crazy since finishing. So I retired September last year, and then pretty much fell pregnant a month later with little Daisy, and moved back we were in around with the Aussie Sevens program in Sydney, and we moved back to Japan, where my husband's based over here for his work over in Tokyo. And so then, just juggling being pregnant and having our elder daughter, Matilda, and just normal Japanese life for us. And then we moved back to Australia for a short period of time just recently, up to Agnes Water, where we've just bought our first family home up there. And we had brought little beautiful Daisy into the world in June this year, and had an awesome little off-season period of time when we were back in Oz, just enjoying all the good things that a Queensland winter can offer. And then we've just moved back over to Japan for the pre-season and the start of the top league season again. So kind of toing and froing between both the countries, and just juggling mum life and looking after 2 kids now, which is a big adjustment going from 1 to 2.
100%. Sounds like it's all been going on, but something different, and it's the next part of life as well. So you had the joys of being a full-time athlete and all that. Now you get to be a full-time mum and see what the rest of the life holds for you, really.
Yeah, and it was always something that I looked to do post playing as well. So I was fortunate enough I got to have a little period of where I got to play and train whilst having a daughter as well. But yeah, just the rate that the game's going and how it's progressing, and our lifestyle living in 2 different countries wasn't kind of feasible to keep doing that for my career. And now just get to dive into the side of how to be a full-time mum to 2 little beautiful girls, and show them all that the world has to offer. And I'm unfortunate that I get to still be around rugby, obviously with my husband coaching and playing over here. My brother-in-law playing over here for the Tokyo Black Rams as well, and being involved in a little bit of coaching things here and there, some commentary roles, and then doing some ambassador roles with HSBC on the 7th Circuit as well. So rugby is never too far away from my mind frame. So lucky that I get to kind of balance a little bit of the other side of footy now with being a mum too.
Do you think both girls are going to go down the rugby path, or you're going to just allow them to see what they want to do? But it sort of feels like in the family now that rugby is, very popular, so they sort of have to.
I think it's very much ingrained in their bloodstream. But Matilda, we're so fortunate here in Japan that the training field is 2 minutes away from our house. So we spend most days down at the Rico rugby field, and they've got a little AstroTurf section where all of the kids of the foreign families and Japanese families, they run around there like maniacs every day. So she's exposed to it really quite regularly, and it's become just a natural, innate part of her life. And she, as a byproduct product of that. She actually just loves it. And she loves going and cheering for Matt and for Zachy and watching them play. So we haven't forced it upon her at all. She's just kind of naturally been exposed to it in that environment, and she's loving it. And she'll run and jump on us and tackle mum, or she'll watch a lot of the Sevens girls playing, and she'll say, you know, she knows a lot of them as my really good friends and like as her, you know, aunties as such. So she'll be watching them saying, run, Dommy, or tackle Charlotte. And, you know, so it's without forcing upon her, it's just what she's been exposed to all the time. So she seems to love it. Daisy, on the other hand, has a bit of a more placid nature than what Matilda had exposed at early days. So not really sure what Daisy will be up to. She's a bit of a chiller, which is really a godsend, because Turbo Tilly doesn't mind dropping a shoulder in randomly every now and then and just jumping on top of you and all of that. So if that's what they want to do, we would be 100% all for it. But I think they are growing up in an era where their possibilities in sport are endless, and that tide has changed about what they can do. So we will be the most supportive parents that we can be, and hopefully not the pushy parents.
No, it's exciting times ahead. So what's life like over there in Japan, and what's rugby like over there as well?
Yeah, it's a very contrast to obviously life we've just had in Agnes Water, that was very slow and chilled, and days by the beach and you know, fires at night time. Whereas here it's a little bit crazy. Like you open our front door and we're on the street. We've got the neighborhood around us, which is all foreign communities, and there's just kids everywhere, and it's crazy. And but also really nice, because you kind of have that kind of co-parenting lifestyle and have people around you all the time. Whereas we're on 40 acres in Agnes, so we were isolated, and it was quite beautiful. You know, you hear the birds before you hear kids crying in the morning. And we ride a bike around everywhere. I've got an electric bike that's got a seat on the back for Tilly, and Daisy's on the front pack, and we cruise around on the bikes everywhere and catch the train. So public transport is really easy, and accessibility is really good, and the food's incredible over here. And so it's a lot cheaper to eat out and eat lots of sets and good quality food than a lot of what the supermarket is, which is kind of a bit of a polar opposite to Australia, where it's quite expensive to eat out, and buying fresh and your own produce is a lot cheaper for your family. So yeah, I feel like we live this kind of bipolar, two separate personalities while we're in different countries. But we love it. We've got a really big sense of community here in Japan, both foreign and Japanese families. And, you know, Matilda goes to a full Japanese speaking nursery, a kindergarten. So her Japanese language is probably better than mine. And we have a beautiful Japanese community that we engage in as well. And things are very different the way they do things in terms of like administration. And I've never had to write so many letters and fill out forms and things to do simple activities over here. But it's really cool and a really great experience for our family. And in terms of the rugby, so the Japanese top league competition is run by companies. So all of the teams that are in the top league Division 1, they're company based. So we are sponsored by Ricoh, and we're the Tokyo Black Rams. And there's obviously alcohol companies, there's Toyota, there's you know, communication companies, NEC and NTT. And they have company workers that also play rugby. So you have foreigners that are professional, and they train full-time like they would in Super Rugby or in any other competition. But then you have the Japanese players that are company workers, and they train all of the field sessions and all of the gym, and then they go to work. And then they work for half the day, or they, when it's the foreign boys or the professional players, their day off. The Japanese company workers, they go to work for the day. So, and those company workers then have a job for life within that company. So then they'll be employed by Ricoh for the rest of their life, and they'll stay as a Ricoh company worker. So it's kind of whatever company you get at, depending on whether you get a blue or white collar job, depends on you know, how much you love that community as well. But yeah, so that I found really interesting when I moved over here. And just in terms of how the setup is, and they try and get a lot of Japanese players to come through the university system, and they try and get a lot of foreigners to come through university so that they're Japanese category, because you can only have a certain number of foreigners and capped, as in terms of Wallabies, All Blacks, sevens capped players that play for your club as well. So you can only have 3 capped internationals, and then you can only have 4 foreigners on the field at one time. So the more players that you can have that are category A, that are Japanese, technically Japanese players, have a Japanese passport, the better your kind of club Japanese system is. So yeah, it's very different how the structure of it works. And in terms of the footy, they love to train. They just train as much as possible. They're there to all hours of the afternoon and night looking to do reviews or to do extras, and they have a fantastic work ethic. And they play really fast. Like the rugby over here is really quite fast. A lot of contact, but really quick play of the ball as well. So it's quite free flowing too, and because of that fast nature of it, high error rate, but still really quite exciting rugby as well. So a few little insights into how it's a little bit different to Australia, I guess. Yeah.
No, for sure. It seems like a lot of, players are wanting to go over to Japan and experience that type of stuff. So it's really cool that you gave us that insight. And it is really interesting how they do have that company sort of set up, and you see that the benefits for it for long term. And is there something, we can take some of the benefits out of there and put it into Australian rugby, and making sure that we're setting up our athletes for good success post rugby, because some people do trade, some people do study, but you can feel a bit lost, I guess, once you do retire and not knowing what you want to do. So I think we can sort of look to what Japan's doing and see how that we can take some little snippets out of that and maybe apply to here in Australia.
Yeah, I agree. If there's some part of the rugby organisation that, or a company that sponsors it, I think there definitely should be some kind of filter pathway similar to like what Japan do, that you're kind of guaranteed, whether you suit the criteria, that you're guaranteed a job for a certain period of time post your transition to assist in that. And I know myself, I felt like I've got a physio degree behind me. I'd done a broadcast commentary courses. I had quite a nice CV, but even still then I felt a bit lost and wasn't sure of where to actually go and what to do. And a lot of people go, I guess, naturally just go into coaching, because it's like, oh, well, rugby is what I know, so I'm just going to keep doing it in that regard. And I was kind of a bit the same, and especially circumstantial wise, where I was over in Japan and looking for any opportunity that I could do. So I think, yeah, taking the principles and the foundations of having that job security would be really great for a lot of companies, and you look at all the attributes that athletes bring to businesses as well. It's kind of a no-brainer, you'd think.
100%. So we'll see what Rugby Australia can do post World Cup and see how we can improve the game, because it is a bit of a low point at the moment, but we won't talk about that too much. So how did you end up playing rugby sevens, and did you always want to play rugby from a young age?
Yeah, so I had no idea what rugby was growing up. Absolutely no idea. I played every sport under the sun growing up in a small country town in Wagga Wagga, and I was AFL based, and like my parents loved AFL, and I didn't really even know who the Wallabies were, to be honest. And I was playing touch football at the time. And I'd been selected to play for Australia, and we went over to the Touch Football World Cup in 2011. And off the back of that, and an under 20s Aussie Trans-Tasman in Canberra, Rugby Australia started recruiting touch football players, because it just got announced that rugby had been included in the 2016 Olympics, and they'd done a huge bid. They kind of realised they didn't have the depth within rugby currently to branch out and have a professional team. So they pretty much sent letters out for recruitment to girls that they'd talent ID'd from touch footy, because a few of the girls had transitioned from touch footy to sevens for the 2009 World Cup in Dubai, which the Aussie girls won. And so they thought, well, that was successful. Let's try that again. And they pretty much just flooded the Touch Football Australia inboxes. And I was fortunate enough to receive one of those letters. So I came back from Scotland, and I thought, at 18, I'd won a World Cup for touch. So I've kind of reached the pinnacle there. I'd always wanted to go to the Olympics. I was a swimmer when I was younger, and I loved watching all the Olympic events at swimming, and didn't obviously really follow that path. And so I thought, why not? So I went down to a camp at the AIS that they had invited me to. I thought it was the best because I'd just paid $3,000 to go to the Touch World Cup and fundraised for that, to play for your country. And here they were going to fly me from, Wagga to, from your home destination to Canberra. And I was like, you can't even fly from Wagga to Canberra. But they were happy to pay for my petrol or pay for my bus to get there. And they were going to feed me for 3 days. And all I had to do was train. And I thought that was incredible. Sign me up, and sign the dotted line and I'll be there. And so went along, absolutely petrified. I'd never, ever made a tackle in my life. And I went along, and they had the likes of old girls like Alex Hargraves and Debbie Hodgkinson, who were massive compared to me. I was 55 kilos dripping wet, and they were, 80 when they woke up in the morning. And I had to do tackle tech with them. I had to learn how to tackle them, had to run at them. I was covered in bruises my first camp, but I was hooked, and I loved it. And I loved more what it could give me. And I loved that it was hard, and I loved that I wasn't good at it. Obviously, at the time, I was sad and disappointed that I wasn't good, but it gave me a challenge, and it gave me something to strive for. And it really gave me some motivation to achieve those big life ticket goals. And so I just fell in love with it. And that was kind of how I went into it. And then they contracted a small amount of us through the DAS funding. And so then, 6 months later, I'm in a small group of 16 women getting paid to, train in my after hours, which I did anyway, and start playing some competitions with the Australian Women's Sevens. So it was a pretty whirlwind introduction. And my first game technically was for Australia in the Central Coast Sevens. We played domestically for the Aussie Pearls. So it was a pretty cool to do. And yeah, came from absolutely nowhere.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. It just shows you that, sometimes the sport that you think you're gonna, go with for the rest of your life, it sort of doesn't work out. And then there are plenty of other sports out there. So it was really cool to see that you got those foundations in touch footy and learned, how to be fast and agile and use your body to evade people, and then come over to rugby. Now you got to learn to keep those skills, but sometimes you got to take contact and then be able to tackle and all that. So it's good that you set yourself up really well to then have a really good career in rugby sevens.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the foundations that I had from touch football, not so much the speed, I wasn't the fastest, but definitely the fitness I got from touch footy, and that agility and awareness as a ball player. And in touch, you have to evade a fingertip, and so whereas in rugby, obviously you can and brush through contact or whatnot. So we were so good at avoiding contact because it was innate to us. We'd done it since we were 8 years old. But the contact side of things was the big limiting factor, and probably how quickly I established a dominance in the game of sevens, because I was quite fearful of the contact. Other players like Emily Cherry, she just took to it like a duck to water, and she was really she was playing in Dubai on the world stage 5 months after her letter, where it took me a lot of time to build that confidence in the contact space and build the repetition and technique to be technically good at it. But I think because of the competitiveness of touch and the winning edge we had over the Kiwis in touch as well. A lot of the rugby girls talk about how when we came into the program, we had no fear of New Zealand because we'd pretty much dominated them in all facets, mixed and women's opens for years in the touch football space. Whereas in rugby, it was completely opposite. New Zealand has such a rich tradition of rugby, and whereas Australian women hadn't, and they had always had these fierce battles, but Australia never really got on top. And so we brought this sense of arrogance, I guess, and confidence that, oh, New Zealand, like, they're not good at ball sports. Like, and I think that translated into giving them a bit of confidence to be like, well, hey, here's this bunch of touchies that can't, haven't really tackled, haven't really done anything, and they're running rings around some of these Kiwi girls. So I think it definitely enabled us to be have a better mindset and a better attitude towards rugby because of touch football.
No, that's really interesting, and yeah, just that extra confidence to try and beat a nation that is pretty damn good at rugby. So that's really cool. So what was it like playing and traveling around the world in the Seven Circuit?
It was hands down some of the funnest and best times. Being able to travel the world with your bunch of best mates and friends and play in all these fantastically different countries all around the world and destinations, and experience all these incredible cultures. It's you pinch yourself about how like grateful and lucky you feel to be able to experience that. And it seems surreal that was our job. That's what we did. Day in, day out. We woke up, went to training, and then a couple of weeks later, we're on a plane to Dubai, and then the next leg we're off to Cape Town, and then back home to play in front of a Aussie crowd, and then off to New Zealand. And passport was getting a workout, and it was incredible being able to do that. A real privilege to be able to represent your country, but do something that is so fun and so enjoyable as well.
No, that's awesome. What are some of the highlights that sort of stand out and come to mind from your time traveling the world playing sevens?
I think probably my first ever tour, in terms of just the enormity of effort it took to get there. And I definitely wasn't ready to play on the international stage, but I look back and see how much that shaped me as a player and that experience it gave me as a person as well. And my mum and my grandma came over, and it was the second last trip my grandma ever had done overseas. And so that was really cool to have her. And we went to London, played in London on the outside fields at Twickenham. Then we played in Amsterdam and for the Amsterdam Sevens. And I've got a little broken. Sorry.
That's so good.
It is. And so that was really cool in terms of like first and experiences and being like, wow, look at all these different countries at play as well. And then I think the first ever time that we won a World Series tournament, which was in Dubai, that is probably one of my highlights too. And that kind of started the snowball effect of us being successful. Can't really go past the 2016 Olympics as probably the pinnacle of highlights, and playing in front of a Brazilian crowd that we kind of attested to be our own because they were green and gold too. So we kind of morphed them into Aussie supporters for while we were there, and having all our friends and family come over as well and be at this pinnacle event that you've dreamt about and heard about for years as a kid, and everyone benchmarks as the ultimate sporting success, I guess, to then be there first and foremost, and get to experience it, but then to be successful at it and to bring home a gold medal would have to be a career highlight, most definitely.
Just leads perfectly into the next question. What was that moment like for you and the team, winning that gold medal? Can you sort of look back and describe it, how it felt? And, prior to the tournament as well, did you go in there pretty confident that you could do the job, or you sort of a bit unknown if we could, step up to the next level of rugby sevens?
No, we were very confident in our preparation, confident in the success that we'd had. We'd been, had been beating New Zealand quite consistently and regularly over the time prior to the Olympics. So for us, we were really quite confident, and probably so much in a way that like when we won, it was a bit of a sense of relief because I told everyone I was going to the Olympics and winning a gold medal. Like, I think we had that belief in ourselves and in each other, and outwardly expressing that mantra and manifesting that success. We had all done, and so I know a few of us talk about that when that final siren went, that we were actually quite relieved, because it was like, we'd done it. We'd been talking about this for years. We moved our lives. We'd left no stone unturned for that preparation. And we'd had, for us to have be here and be doing that was pretty incredible. And for it to then shape the course of a nation's, darling, to shape the course of a nation in terms of its rugby development for women, was pretty big. So it was relief, joy, just crazy happiness, like the most besides having children, the most happiest moment that I could have experienced, and just a beautiful celebration of a lot of bloody hard work, to be honest. But when it was a bit surreal because they scored also on the hooter, or just before the hooter had went, and the kick obviously happened after the siren. And so normally we had like a bit of a mantra, no one scores last on us type situation. And it's a bit deflating if that kind of happens to you, because you've defended and you've let this try in at the very end and whatnot. But for once, in one time, I remember saying to Emily, being like, who cares that they scored? We just won. Because we still had another 7 points ahead of them and the game was over. So I would never be caught dead saying that normally. But at the Olympics, I had to let that one slide.
Yeah, it was just really cool. Remembering when, you did win, and then all the press came out, and it was just really cool to see, rugby being successful. And just what has that roll-on effect from that games as well has been really cool to see. The Seven Circuit, gain more audience, and more athletes are coming through, and we're seeing just some really good athletes out there playing some great sport. And it was just really cool to see you girls win, and just dominate as well, which is awesome.
Yeah, no, it was very cool to be a part of. So I'm and it's cool to you speak to even people now, like yourself, and that watched it and they remember where they were at the time, and what day it was, and just all of that kind of stuff as well. So that's really cool to have that involvement within the rugby community, or even outside the rugby community, people to remember that moment as well, and it to be kind of iconic for not only us and our families, but for the community and wider Australia in general. So I feel very lucky to have been a part of that.
So where do you keep the gold medal now? Is it in a nice hidey spot, or in a safe or something like that, or?
No, people ask all the time. It used to just be in my because we were living overseas and abroad and around, we didn't have a house. It just was in my mum and dad's computer drawer. But then I've needed it for a few things and a few events. So then I've had to post it around, or I've had to bring it over to Japan and bring it back. So it's it literally yo-yos itself around whenever I need it. So, and I'd left it in Agnes just recently because I'm like, I'll be safe there, I'll leave it there, I won't need it. And then an event's popped up and they obviously requested the medal, so I've had to get it posted back to Wagga when I go home next week. And so it's all over the shop. But I saw on the Wide World of Sports the other day, Kerry Pottast had her gold medal from the volleyball out on the show to show Ellie Cole, and she was like, yeah, it's out all the time. They just have it still around. So I think it'd be something that you'll just keep at the ready if you ever need up your sleeve.
It's a pretty big flex to walk around with a gold medal, So
yeah,
I'll
I don't
definitely
wear
be bringing it out. Yeah, if Matt's ever getting a bit chirpy, you could just wear it around the house and just remember,
Just remember, this is also the gold medal of parenting too.
Yeah. For sure. So what is required to be a successful rugby sevens athlete?
Oh, a very broad question, but I think we lived off the principles of fast, fit, and physical were the big ones in terms of your physical presence, and then it was the intelligence. you have to know all of the rugby rules and apply all those rugby rules in a wider space with smaller numbers, and you have to be able to do that under extreme fatigue as well. And so the ability to be fast is a no-brainer. Obviously, with all that space, being able to run around people, agile to be able to change direction, turn and chase, and fit just because of the nature of that high-speed running meters that you're doing, and be able to do that repeatedly throughout a 14-minute game. And then the physicality of the collisions, and then just the ability to like repeat efforts and regulate lactic acid and physically be able to get back up again and do another tackle and make repeat efforts on repeat efforts, or bust through contact and stuff as well. So it's like a lot of people that have play sevens say it's like one of the hardest sports and most physically demanding sports to do well and to play well. And when you see it played really well, then you see literally like these incredible, powerful, physical athletes that make it look easy. But I think too, like depending on position, then I think that only takes into correlation size, because you can still be powerful, fit, fast, and small, but you just play potentially like a nine or even like a wing position. But obviously, a lot of bigger fast forwards, power forwards, still need to be really quite fast and agile and physical, and the games become really, really athletic as well.
100%. I don't think people understand how hard sevens is until you go play a tournament or you go live and watch a game, because it might be only 7-minute halves, but you're trying to play multiple games over a day, rest that night, and then play again the next day, and then playing in a potential final. So it just all adds up. And if you add all those totals up over the weekend, you're probably playing, a really hard normal game in 15s plus a little bit of extra stuff on top. So it definitely is a hard game. And if you are looking to transition over, it's just going to take some time to be able to be and get used to playing sevens, and then vice versa. If you've been playing sevens for quite a while, it's just going to take a little bit of time to adjust back to the 15s world.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think too, that's the mental capacity of sevens players is also really important, to be able to switch on, play high intensity and give your best, and then switch off, down regulate, recover, and be able to recover really quickly, and then be able to do it all again. And that's 3 times a day, 2 days in a row, or it's 2 times a day, 3 days in a row. So that's even longer. So that's like another sleep, a full night's sleep in terms of that, another day to get sore. So sometimes 3-day tournaments you would see, because it's like, it's only 2 games a day, but the intensity that you play at over those 2 games on that day then gets dragged on for the 3 days, where sometimes the 2-day 3, it's a lot more full on, but it's over in a lot quicker space, and that mental capacity to switch on, switch off, it all happens really fast and quickly. It's not kind of dragged on to over the 3 days. Yeah. So yeah, like the sevens is wild in terms of the intensity of it, and how much it demands from you. And I know a lot of sevens players that do go back to 15s, they find the 15s game like very long and arduous, and you don't get as much ball, but you have to be so precise every time you do get the ball. You have to execute, otherwise you're not getting another chance for another 15 minutes.
100%. I think a good thing about the sevens, yeah, for sure. I think the good things about sevens is your next game's pretty quick turnaround. So if you did have a bad game, you're like, cool, I can get out there and play again and work on the things that I need to fix. Whereas in the 15s is like, damn, I got to wait a whole week and then get back on the field. So I do like that area of the sevens where you can, put a bad game behind you pretty quickly and then go out there and play again.
Yeah, and I think even at the elite level, it's like a bad half, or a bad moment, a bad 2 minutes. And that's the knife edge between the best teams in the world and that tier 2 teams as well. and you're right, like you have such a opportunity to be able to, you might start really slow, but you still win and successful, or you might lose a game on day one. But then it's finals day, and the quarterfinal is it's like a knife's edge in terms of who wins that. It's a lottery sometimes, because it's like it's a new day, like there's nothing to lose. Teams just go absolutely gangbusters, and some results end up completely unexpected on the seven circuits. So it's a good opportunity. It's a good sport in terms of how you can just continually learn and develop and work on things and have progress and fix anything on the go as well.
Hi everyone, we just want to take a quick break from this episode. We hope you're enjoying this episode so far and all the content we have produced. We appreciate all the support from our listeners and followers so far. If you haven't already, sign up to Elite Rugby S&C blog today. You'll find our website link in our bio below. Remember to like, subscribe, and share Elite Rugby S&C on all social media platforms to all your family and friends. Thanks again for all your support, and now back to the episode.
So how did strength and conditioning training help you to become a better rugby sevens athlete?
So in touch football, I was all conditioning. I was just all running. I hadn't done any gym-based work. And I think my first program I got was just a body weight program that was like, 10 push-ups, 3 sets, 10 squats, 3 sets. And, very similar to something like that, pull-ups at the bar or under the table and some dips and calf raises. And I literally put on 3 kilos just doing a body weight program, because I had just never been exposed to any form of strength training. And I think that was the biggest thing for me. The strength and conditioning program helped me build so much muscle, and I ended up playing around 65 kilos. So I put on over 10 kilos in my career. That was obviously helped me be more powerful, more explosive, and be able to create a lot more force in my movements and in my running capacity as well. So I learned to love the gym. I'd always loved running, and like you would ask any of my teammates, like I was always up for conditioning or doing extras, or conditioning games were my thing. But the strength I had to work really hard at, but I actually really loved. I loved in the gym. I loved chasing PBs. I loved doing things that were really quite powerful and explosive, and just that made you better. In terms of being able to bust through the contact, because that was the area that I was quite weak at, and being able to hold my own in that. And I think because of my position, I ended up attack sealing a lot in terms of passing ball supporting. So I had to be really strong over the ball. And I ended up also being one of the highest tacklers in the team too. So the ability to withstand contact and to be physically strong enough to brace and withstand contact, get up and do that again repeatedly, all came down to the strength and conditioning programs that I had done or was doing throughout my career.
No, that's awesome. It sounds like you started off with the most basic program and earned the right to progress yourself over your time, which is really cool to see. And, some people feel like you need to rush into doing, your barbell back squats and all these sort of more complex lifts, whereas, doing some push-ups, pull-ups, body weight squats, doing some goblet squats, earning the right to go heavier and to progress yourself is the way to go, and to establish that good relationship. Because the worst we could do as, strength conditioning coaches is do all these complex stuff, and then you hate the gym, and you go through your career where you and the gym don't have a good connection. And we're seeing some really good positive results of what the gym does out on the field for rugby athletes. So it's cool that you earned the right to go through it and ended up enjoying the gym throughout your career.
Yeah, definitely. And they did that a lot with and they continue to do that a lot with a lot of the young females that come through the programs, because it's strength and development isn't quite common in the early days. It is becoming a lot more now, and by doing that and enabling it to successfully build and learn that like your body is changing for a positive, because that's the other thing too, like my body completely transformed in terms of muscle mass and size. My nickname was Sticks when I first started, because I was like a twig, to then having these quads and hamstrings that I'd never even thought existed before, and all of that kind of stuff. And so it's a really great transition for young females and young males as well, to be able to start nice and slow, get really good technique, and then build on those foundations and work towards, you know, your powerlifting and all of that kind of stuff. That's the fine little 1%, finesse, 1%, the 1%. I'm like hearing my brain work. Like, you know, that 1% towards, whereas, you know, being able to technically squat correctly is so crucial to, you know, pilfering over the ball, getting low to make a tackle, powering through contact, and having those foundations were really good for developing strong and positive, you know, fundamentals in the game.
That's awesome. So is your nickname still Sticks, or is it, you know, changed after you got really strong? Did you become like Bamboo or Tree Trunks or something like that? You know, strong, you know, instead of being
I was like Quadzilla. No, I think that someone else took that thing. No, I still genetically had the tiniest calves in the world. So no, but I wasn't called Sticks anymore. I just was, you know, back to quirky.
Yeah, fair enough. So what did a normal training week look like building into a tournament? How was the training sort of split between gym and field, and how many sessions did you do during a day?
So a normal training week would be, depending on the season and pending how crazy S&C was going at the time. Sometimes it would be double field, so a bigger field in the morning and then a smaller field in the afternoon that was like a high intensity or quick conditioning kind of block of games, and with gym in the middle. So 3 kind of sessions in a day. On the Monday, Tuesday would be potentially like a skills-based session, either indoors or on feet, that's like lighter intensity, and then another gym. Wednesday would be a day off. Thursday would be similar to Monday, and depending on how you pulled up from that start of the week, it might only be 1 field session and then 1 gym, and then Friday's field and gym as well. So you'd be doing four gym sessions a week, and then similar field, if not 4 to 6 in the week, and just like your normal week. And then that would be tapered off as you head towards more into season and into a game like thing. And then same in the gym, it would be altered to be more like explosive band work stuff, lighter reps, you know, a bit more like box jumpy type situation than kind of a heavy squat lift and whatnot, and a little bit of like an upper body pump pre-game. So that would be a typical 4-day week. And then you've also got then just say girls that are in rehab, or you've got extra conditioning sessions. You might have watt bike or extra gym pumps as well, based on what your areas that you need to improve on or where you need greatest development in, and sometimes also just strengthening your strengths. So sometimes I just like to do extra running or whatnot. So I might have been modified some weeks, and other weeks I might be able to do more in that area to sharpen the axe on the things that you're really good at. And then within that, that's just, there's obviously then time slots and allocated for just extra PSS, so player specific skills as well. So it's a big week, like when you get through content and load of it. There's lots that is done in that space, as just the bare minimum anyway.
So what does Daisy's week look like in the gym and out on the field? Does she do some double sessions every day, or?
Yeah, she's just on the protein diet at the minute. Bit of foreplay, bit of tummy time. But yeah, she's doing very different to what I would have done. Her weeks are very easy compared to a normal 7th week.
I don't know if you've seen on TikTok, there's this guy and his little son. He's just provides updates on his little boy's bulk, and you know, he's just helping him do chin-ups and all these little things. It's hilarious, but it's really cool to see him, you know, slowly ingrain all these little things that he wants his son to do. It's really cool.
So yeah, that is cool.
So you might have to keep us updated on how little Daisy goes.
Yeah, she's packing the pounds on at the minute, which is good.
That's awesome. So what did recovery look like during the week of all this training that you're doing, all these extras, and then over a tournament? What were the go-to things for you in terms of recovery? And was there anything that sort of helped that you sort of didn't necessarily think that would help?
Yeah, so traditionally it would be post field. It would be a option of either like a recovery river or like pool recovery or hot cold ice bath contrast, and pending also on injury protocol. So as we went, a lot of tendon based stuff avoided ice during the week or during tournament, just to be able to keep everything warm and tendon health in a good, state as such. And so that would kind of be contrasted. You might just do heat for recovery, and then posted gym, sorry, then might be just like a partner stretch that we would do in terms of our recovery there. And then you'd finish like on a Tuesday after a big couple of days. They had the recovery boots out, and would be using recovery boots, or day off it would be type, recovery boots, ocean swim, light walk, more of an active recovery a lot of the time. I think because we were so on the go all the time, and you have to be moving and constantly going again, the active recovery was really important for us. And same with in a tournament, there'd be some girls that really like the ice bath post game as also just a way, depending on the heat, because we play a lot around the summer, just to down regulate their core body temperature as well. And so that would be their preference. Or it would be if you didn't do ice baths, it'd be legs up for 10 minutes and just get a lot of that lactic acid out and blood flow back through the body. And then it'd be everyone flushes through the recovery boots, and then a huge intake of protein. So it'd be protein shake post most field and gym, lots of food. Food nutrition intake is huge, and just getting that in really early post a session, and then sleep. We would sleep in between games if we could, even if it was a quick 20-minute cat nap, sleep in between sessions at RA, and then most girls would be in their pajamas at 4:00 and ready for bed after dinner.
Yeah, I definitely could imagine that after big trainings or games, you're just knackered and you're just ready to go to sleep.
Yeah. And then the standard recovery things, obviously, a lot of girls like to roll or stretch, as well, compression garments, or for contact recovery protection, like wearing shoulder pads in bigger, heavy sessions, just so that you're recovering quicker for then a game that's closer to the tournament as well. So kind of like preventative recovery stuff as well, that a lot of the group found helped in that regard. But yeah, kind of utilizing whatever you could, because it was brutal by then, but you did whatever you could to get your body back into good health, because it's your biggest asset, your biggest tool. So putting as much of it into it as you can. And there's a few cryotherapy sessions here and there, if people found that worked for them. The recovery floats I really enjoyed, and really liked the salt floats as well, especially post, because you've got to take into account too, with all that travel, a lot of jet lag as well. So maximizing melatonin intake and getting your sleep back to normal rhythms, and doing anything you can to just flush toxins out and keep going.
Yeah, 100%. It's definitely something that you can easily forget about, but it plays a massive role in our game and for athletes to be able to perform week in and week out. So it's a great insight that you just said, and the key point there was finding what works for you. Some things are going to work, some things don't, and don't do something that you don't like in doing, because it's probably not going to have any good benefits for you. So just experiment with stuff out there, but find your routine and find what works for you, and see what happens, really.
Most definitely, I would have to agree with that. And the older you get to, the more you're probably doing to keep your body going. It's very different to the young 18-year-old that's just coming in fresh, bouncing back after every session, never had an injury.
100%. So for athletes wanting to transition over to rugby sevens, what advice do you have for them?
I think open-minded and just giving it a go. As hard as it's going to be to transition, if you are looking for a really big challenge, 100% give it a crack. I was a big advocate of don't ever let anyone tell you that you're not good enough or that you don't deserve to be there. Like if you have hopes and ambitions and you want to chase them, absolutely go for it and get the right people in your corner, and you'll be successful in that regard. So I think the biggest thing to do if you're transitioning to rugby sevens, like it's really hard, but it's really fun and rewarding as well. So just embracing. Well, we had a mantra as well, like just enjoy the hard work. So that's probably a big one as well. Just enjoying the hardness of it, because the reward from it is really good.
100%. So how did you and the team create such a unique and strong sisterhood? Because every time you look at the sevens girls, it's just, good vibes, you're working hard, and you're so connected as well. And it shows out on the field, and it's shown since you've won that gold medal how strong that sisterhood is. So how did you and the team create, that such unique connection that you have?
Yeah, we had a really, I think because when we first started, back in 2014, when we all went professional, we all kind of like made the choice a lot of the girls gave up their full-time jobs that were, high earning salaries. And a lot of the girls moved from interstate to Sydney, and we kind of became the first ever, professional program in Australia. And we kind of all took it on a chance for not much money, and for, the hope that we were going to make the Olympics and the hope that we were going to do well. And it was going to take a lot of hard work and a good 2 years of sacrificing and choices towards being successful. So we kind of all in that instance only really had each other, and we only really relied on each other. We all kind of moved to Sydney and no one lived in that area. And so we really became quite a family. And we had a lot of people go through some really hard times and some really tough times in that as well. And I think that really bonds you tighter and tighter. And I think then too, we started to see the rewards of the hard work. And that once you started enjoying that hard work and you realize that this is really fun and this is really an amazing opportunity, and we were experiencing different cultures and trips and spending so much time in each other's back pocket, you just naturally become family and learn how to look out for each other. And sevens too also exposes every single individual's weaknesses, and teams look to expose every single individual's weaknesses, and you needed to be able to know each other intricately to be able to cover for each other and to be able to help each other. Because ultimately, if you didn't, it only takes one person to miss a tackle, and that's a try. One person to get stepped, one person to fall off, one person to drop a ball or whatnot, or one person not to be able to pass left to right and you can't finish on that side. So if you didn't know what each other's work-ons are, then you couldn't really look after each other on the field, or you couldn't really help each other get better off the field. So I think we had enough time, because we were around each other so often, to really work on those things, and it all kind of come together really well at Rio, led by head coach at the time, Tim Walsh. And I think he's then come back in again with this new crop of young players and doing quite similar in terms of like making the off-field really fun and taking it away from it being like a full-time job, making them work really hard, and creating like that sisterhood and that kind of family environment again, without having everyone had to relocate and go through all that kind of stuff that we did and fight for a lot of the rights that the girls are afforded today. So I think that's probably the foundation of kind of where it came from, and everyone kind of just had that same mindset of wanting to win and win for each other, and that goes a long way in terms of a team that's successful. If everyone's on the right page, and like, you don't have to like love each other all the time, but kind of have that same drive and that same will to want to win together. I think that makes a hugely uniquely successful team. And we had a sports site come and speak to us one time, and it was kind of like finding out, would you rather be the star of the team, but your team loses and you get a silver medal, but you're the star, you get best on ground or whatever, and you play every single minute? Or would you rather miss out and your team wins a gold medal, or you come off the bench and you only get a minute, or like, you don't play but your team wins a gold medal. And I think that goes to show a lot of the people that you have in your group, if you're picking and playing more people that are picking the latter choice of team first mentality than picking the first choice. And I think we just had a lot of people in the group that wanted to do the second choice.
You definitely see it when teams are successful, that they're a team, and no one's above the team or anything like that. So it's really good to remind yourself and the team that we're trying to strive to something together, and no one's above the team, and we don't want those star players, even though the whole team is probably the star player, because you're working together. So you could probably also remind each other of that. But no, sounds like a really good system that's in place, and it'd be pretty cool if there was a documentary about that as well. The time that you've been there, and even now just following the seven circuits around, I think that would be pretty cool to show all the things that we don't see enough of, as people just watching the game. So I think that would be a pretty cool idea.
Yeah. Well, if you want to go into production career, I'm happy to go in it with you.
Yeah, maybe I'll keep it in mind. So just moving on to the short and sharp questions, just to wrap up the podcast. So outside of rugby sevens and rugby union, what sports do you like to keep up to date with and watch?
I've been really invested in the Matildas and the soccer lately. So that's been one that I keep up with. Really interested in the NRLW, because obviously a lot of the girls that are in that competition now are ex-sevens players. So it's like watching all of your friends go head-to-head regularly in that competition. So I've been really into that as well. Obviously, the World Cup's on, but that's 15, so that's still outside of my rugby realm. And I have a little best interest in the AFL here and there as well. And one of my really good friends plays in the AFLW, so watching that too. But yeah, that they're about the main ones that I can find time for currently to be able to tune into. 100%.
But no, there's so many good rugby sevens or ex-rugby players playing it in the NRLW, and they're doing a great job. And you love to see it, but you also it'd be good if one day we can keep that talent in rugby union as well, or allow them to be able to play both tournaments if they could, or just something like that. Because we are seeing a lot of girls transitioning over and potentially not coming back. But that's a different story.
Yeah. No, and I understand that too, because the NRL at the minute, NRLW, it offers you the flexibility to be semi-professional. And for some people, the seventh circuit is too much. You're away too much. It's too hard. You're training full time. It's not a lifestyle that suits everyone. And whereas the NRLW is currently offering you that option to be able to play a short season, really intense, really professional, but then you can go off and do something else as well. Or you can then do your representative honours for Jillaroos or Kiwi or Tonga or whoever you play for. And then you can also then have another job that you have, or spend more time with your family and friends. Whereas the seventh circuit it's brutal. It's full on. It's 8 legs over around the year, plus preseason all over the world. So it's not for the faint-hearted. So it's not like it's hard sometimes, because it's not like I feel like we're not losing them. It's just sevens provides the cream of the crop. Like it's the best of the best that stick around with sevens, in my opinion. And that actually are successful and crack it. The ones that do and are good at it, they stay there for a long period of time, and have a great longevity in the game. I think it would be great for the ones that maybe aren't suited to the sevens, or don't find that lifestyle or whatnot, that they're transitioned into the 15s and they become successful in the 15 side of the game, as it's in that semi-professional state, and they are still involved in rugby as well.
100%. But it's exciting times, because the NRLW is just getting better, and I'm really enjoying the State of Origin as well, where it's the best of the best going against each other. It's been some really, really good games and
good footy.
I just thought this season was really cool as well. And just each year just getting better. So it's exciting times ahead.
Agree.
So which rugby player is due for a breakout season in the Aussie Sevens for the girls?
Ooh. They've really retained a lot of their talent from last year, and I think hopefully with opportunity, Biantiera will have a really massive year this year. She had a breakout year for the Wallaroos last year, and then she was kind of limited with game time because obviously Maddie Levi was going so well and Faith Nathan also was being really successful. But I think if she transitions more into that fast forward role and with a really good preseason under her belt, hopefully she will be massive for the girls there, and that just adds another level to their physicality and speed that they have on the field at that time. I know Dom DeToit has been doing a lot of work at 9-10, so I'd love to see how she goes in that role as well. Previously just been a winger or a centre, so adding her speed and her variability in her game into that 9 and 10 position hopefully might be a added string to the Aussie Sevens bow as well. So they're probably two to keep an eye on for this year, I think.
Fantastic. So which is your go-to song that you would sing at a karaoke bar?
The song that I know all the words to is Shake a Tail Feather by Nelly and P. Diddy off the Bad Boys 2 soundtrack. Which is so
song.
random.
It's a good song.
Yeah, my husband only lets me play it on my birthday, he reckons. But that's a song I know all of the words to. But I've been to karaoke karaoke is quite big here in Japan, and I've been a few times, and most recent times I've been pregnant while I've been. So I've actually realized there's a lot of songs that I know and I'm really good at singing.
Is there some kid songs that come to mind as well that you'd probably sing?
Oh yeah, I'm all over Baby Shark.
Yeah,
I've got that nailed.
Well, that's funny. What is a common misconception you hear in rugby that is just wrong? This one was true. I couldn't really think in terms of women's rugby, like especially when I first started and still, especially with sevens. I think the common misconception is that like we play on a smaller field, which obviously is wrong. Just because there's less players doesn't mean that we have a small field. So that's probably one that I've heard commonly and still to today. Whereas it used to be, oh, you actually tackle. It's not just like tag rugby. Like girls just play tag. And so that was early days, but that's way less common to hear nowadays with the change of the guard. But still the size of the field is a big one that people ask often. So I obviously just think smaller numbers, smaller field. Yeah. Yeah, they probably haven't watched the game and you're like, no, we play on the same venue.
No.
Why would they
same
create a
field,
whole...
that's why my lungs are falling out.
So who was the biggest pest on tour and why?
Outside of myself, I think we didn't really have like a pest as such. Like, yeah, we weren't really like someone that was really annoying. But I think Elia always had to be in control of the music. So that became annoying because sometimes the music wasn't like for everyone. And yeah, not like probably the coaches more than anything. Like Tom Carter was a bit annoying all the time, just in around, and Craig Twentyman back in the day, he was a pest, like just a ball of energy, but just a pest as well. But all in good fun.
Yeah, for sure, 100%. So what has been a big game-changing moment in your rugby career that sort of stands out?
Early career was probably when I didn't get picked for the 2013 World Cup where they went to Russia, and thinking that I had the skill set attack-wise and vision and everything to be picked, but that my defence wasn't up to scratch. My mindset was like, let in 2 tries, I'll just score 3 tries. It's not obviously how the game works. So that was probably a big defining moment in terms of like, okay, wow, I need to really fix this and I need to work on this because I don't want to feel like this in 2 years' time when the Olympic selection comes around. So that was probably the biggest game-changing moment for me in terms of changing my mindset and my approach to the game and approach to – sorry, Daisy's just having a little yarn here too, approach to the way that I trained and defended and tackled and And then by that moment, then I just got anyone and everyone to just start running at me, just so that I just had repetition, different body types, different diversities, just so that I was versed in chopping down whoever came my way.
100%. Is there any book recommendations that you think people should read?
Books. Well, currently there's a new A to Z of Who I Could Be out by Chloe Dalton, which is a kid's book that yours truly is very fortunate to feature in under the Q.
Nice.
Pays to have an odd last name. But a fantastic book that she's put out for kids, about 26 female athletes from different sports around. So that's a really good kids book, a little Chrissy present. That's good. And also the one she wrote about Girls Don't Play Sport, about the progress of women's sport in Australia. So there are two books that I've just read recently that I would recommend to people about like women's sport. Outside of that, the only other books I've read are parenting books. So I'm not sure anyone might want to read any of those currently.
That's so good. Who knows? They might find a time that they do need it very soon. So last question, looking back at your wonderful rugby career, how would you describe it?
Verb. You had a verb. How would I describe it? I think it seemed like it was, for me, it just seemed wild in terms of like endless opportunity would probably be like a word to describe. Like it provided me above and beyond anything that I could ever have imagined. And it seems unfathomable that it actually happened. And I guess sometimes in the depths of motherhood currently, you look back and you go, wow, like was that real? Like quite surreal for, you know, a young girl from Wagga to start playing a completely different sport, end up at the Olympics, travel the world on the world stage, and then you know, then the way that it kind of came to an end in essence, missing out on Tokyo because of COVID, and then having a baby and all of that, to then get back to it and just absolutely love it was really cool. So it was kind of like the opportunities were endless in it, and it was wild fun.
No, that's awesome. So who should be my next guest on the podcast? Is there any athletes or coaches that come to mind?
I think if you're looking for a really good person to speak to in terms of S&C, it would be Tom Carter, if you haven't had him in. He is obviously had played for the Waratahs, Sydney Uni for a long time, and was an absolute pest when he played the game, but has really changed his mantra in terms of his approach to things now that he's at S&C and working within the female program. And he was really good in terms of like changing and taking the Aussie Women's Sevens program where it was as a gold medal success to then like he was pretty much the backbone of that Triple Crown that they did last year as well. So yeah, I think he'd be someone really, really cool and insightful to speak to about the sevens side of the game.
Awesome. Sounds good. So where can listeners find you on social media if they want to keep up to date with you?
Yeah, I'm just on Instagram. Alicia_Quirk is my tag, and I'm on Twitter, but it's not called Twitter anymore. X.
Yeah, it's called X. Weird.
X, which I still find weird, which is just Alicia Quirk as well.
Awesome. So thanks for joining me today. Thank you, Daisy, as well, for not bursting out or anything like that. She's done a wonderful job. But thank you for joining me today. It's been awesome to get a more of an in-depth insight into your career and sevens and all that. And I couldn't thank you enough. And I know people are going to get a lot out of this episode as well.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Kieran, for having me on. I appreciate it a lot.
Thanks for tuning into another episode of Elite Rugby S&C podcast. Remember to like, subscribe, and rate Elite Rugby S&C on Spotify and YouTube, and make sure you follow us on Instagram. Sign up to become a beast via the link in the description or via Instagram page. Also, don't wait, make that good decision and join Elite Rugby S&C today and take your game to the next level.